Welcome to the Health Revolution, the show that leads you to a life of vibrant well-being. In a world full of noisy health trends, we bring you clarity through a sea of fads. We reveal the science behind the strategies that truly work. We explore physical strength, emotional resilience, and mental mastery, the keys to an enriched life. See inspiring interviews with the champions who've conquered life's health challenges. Are you ready to unlock your potential to live with vitality and purpose? Then join the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, health and fitness expert, speaker, and a mom who understands. Let's embark on this transformative quest together. If you want to change the game, it all starts now. Welcome, everybody. You are watching the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison. We are so thrilled that you're joining us today. No matter which way you're tuning into us, please do not forget to hit the subscribe button. We want to stay connected to you. Also, as a little note, at the bottom of your screen, there is a tab for show episode notes. Be very mindful of that. There's some important information about today's episode. And we want to welcome all new viewers and returning viewers to our show. We're excited to talk about all things elevating our life. That's the physical human body, the emotional resilience, and the mental mastery. We cover it all in a variety of different angles. And today I'm excited about our topic. We are covering how to handle stress and burnout. No matter what's going on in life, we many a times come across these obstacles. We do feel it. We feel that the stress is overloading and overwhelming us, that the burnout is real. The burnout stops us in our tracks. And oftentimes we feel hopeless. How can we move forward? How can we get beyond this? How do we get our mojo back so that we can keep going and climbing in the direction that we need to be? This is where that emotional resilience comes into place. Our guest today is someone who I have had the opportunity to get to know, very near and dear to my heart. He has all the receipts in this category of life, how we are to master stress and burnout. First, take a look at this. Let's get to know him. Meet Andrew O'Brien, a powerful voice in the fight against burnout and chronic stress. A seasoned life coach and national speaker, Andrew brings more than just credentials to the table, including holding an MBA in HR management, triple certified as a professional certified coach, and a senior certified professional through the Society for Human Resource Management. With a mission to help adults and organizations thrive without sacrificing well-being, Andrew is redefining what success, peace, and prosperity looks like in today's high-pressured world. He's here to share not just strategies, but a mindset shift. And today we'll learn how to redefine success without burning out. Andrew O'Brien, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Adriana. It's amazing to be here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yes. Well, I've gotten to know you over the course of time, and I'm glad that you and I are able to have this conversation. I wanted to start first and foremost, how did handling stress and managing and overcoming burnout become such a topic that is close to your heart, and how important it is for you to put emphasis on this?
Well, I always say, like, when we get into these helping professions, we always kind of like specialize in the thing that we have struggled with the most. So I've struggled with I call it mastering the stress. I have struggled with mastering that stress for so much of my life until more recently when I learned to master it. And so, yeah, it's because I experienced many rounds of burnout across my life. And that's really, through a lot of reflective work, made a bit of a career transition into this coaching world as one way to master that stress. And so that at a very high level is what led me to this space.
Now, with all that you do in the different hats that you wear, what was your first foray, your fork in the road where this was becoming an area you needed to tackle, stress and burnout? How did this show up in your professional career?
Yeah, it showed up in symptoms and pain, and some of the symptoms were not even pain. So let's go back, I would say, around 4 or 5 years at this point is when I really started to experience that heaviness. I actually thought I was clinically depressed, and so I did start to work with a therapist at the time. And through our work together, she made the assessment. Nope, you're not clinically depressed. You are just burned out. And it was during that time where I was experiencing so many other symptoms, vision issues, GI issues, hemorrhoids, what I call like invisible symptoms, like increasing LDL cholesterol. That was all happening with me. And I knew like, I just can't, like, I knew that there has to be more. There has to be more to life than just living the way I'm living, because the way that I was living was just, it was not fun. It was not a fun way to live with all of that was going on.
Now, would you say that your profession, like the corporate setting, played a role, or was it just your line of work? Was it the work environment? What had led up to those moments where you were really struggling?
Yeah. So there were two main, I would say, catalysts to me not being able to manage and master my stress. One of those things goes years back. I'm gonna quickly highlight that, and then I'm gonna get back to the professional setting. The piece that takes me way back is I am a gay man, and I was growing up in a town, in a society that the majority of the people were not like me. And when I was growing up watching the news and hearing of these different stories, what I was seeing, or what my brain was seeing anyway, was that there were gay people experiencing hate crimes and sometimes getting killed. And so what did my brain do in that moment? I mean, I know all this now. I did not know all of this back then. But what I know now is that what my brain did was all right, clearly I don't fit into this mold. I don't fit into this society. And if I don't fit in, I'm going to get hurt. And so my brain told me I need to protect myself in some way. And so how do I fit in? It became that. One of the ways that I fit in, there are really two main ways in which I could have fit into my high school. And one was the athletic approach. The other one was more of the academic approach. I wasn't as athletic as I am right now back then, so I chose the academic route, and that's what I did. I I studied my face off. And I got those straight A's. And the more that I got those straight A's, the more accolades I was getting, the more praise I was getting, and that was like a positive reinforcement. Uh, and you might think that that's a good thing, and I don't talk down about that positive reinforcement, but what that was also doing was telling me to kind of keep going harder and harder and harder, to kind of keep getting these straight A's, to fit in so that I wouldn't get hurt. And that I know now is just like this perfectionism way of life, not sustainable. And so that bled into my college years, it bled into my professional career, and I was always just trying to do my best to please people, so that I could fit in. That's what I know now after a lot of reflection. That was one of the catalysts. The other catalyst was getting into a field that I got into the human resources field. I spent many years working in the HR world, and I got into that field for full transparency. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grow up, and I was like, but I do know that I love helping people. So human resources. I was like, this might be the way to go. So I entered that world, and I spent many years there. I climbed the ladder, again, the perfectionist way of life, which I now know is not sustainable. But what I learned over the years was that I wasn't able to help people in the way that I wanted to help people. I wanted to help people in a way that truly supports them. And what I found in my roles, in my experience in HR, it was a lot of policing, it was a lot of compliance type work, it was a lot of investigations, and that to some degree you're helping, but it wasn't really. I wasn't getting to the core of how I wanted to help people, and so those were the two main reasons as to why I struggled with my stress for so many years, year in and year out, and it was only when I kind of came to those realization points that I started to make a difference in my life. And once I made that choice to say, okay, now I know that HR isn't for me. Now I know that perfectionism is not sustainable. What can I do differently? And that's when I started to do things differently.
You know, you bring up a point about HR, and sometimes there's a little chuckling because when I think of HR, and I've never set foot into that world, there is a lot of elements that that have to be aware. You mentioned the compliance, but then you also mentioned, I can only imagine the willingness to help those who are, the employees, the team members that are there. But at the same time, if somebody discloses too much, could it impact them negatively if they were, say, if they were honest about feelings, or if they were struggling in a way that didn't give the look of, I have it together and I'm on top of my work. And so I'm curious with you, I'm curious to ask you, did you find that in going through human resources that there were some stressors that you were taking on your own, that you were just kind of receiving and absorbing like in sponge mode? And can you talk a little bit about just like leading the charge, but also having to do a temp check of some sort?
Yeah, absolutely. I call myself an empath, and back then I also didn't have the tools to protect myself, so I did take a lot of it home. And of course, you're in a. I'm going to speak about my experience. I don't like to make like blanket statements. With my experience in the various organizations that I worked in the HR field, I, um, you can like you feel like you never win. You feel like because even in an investigation, as an example, even if you do something that supports the victim that's coming forward, that victim is still victimized.
Were there moments or were there signs that you didn't know then, but you know now, that really stand out, that, oh, okay, we are on the, if we're not careful, it's gonna be a really challenging road?
Yeah, for me, I have become very much in tune with my body and what my body is telling me. So I am so tuned in with my symptoms. If I ever experience a symptom, I'm like, all right, I got to check myself. And that's what I started to do more of back then. I'm also getting my biometrics like screened all the time. That's an exaggeration, maybe twice a year, because I really want to check that LDL cholesterol level. That has been my nemesis, and unmanaged stress can actually increase it. That's what I call that invisible symptom. And so I make that visible. I make it visible so I can, it's a data point. And I check in with the rest of my body, and I check in with, am I experiencing any symptoms, physical or emotional? And now that I know all the science and how to take my power back in mastering my stress, I'm like, all right, what am I not optimizing as much as I can be? And that's kind of like the direction that I go. But absolutely, yeah.
So when was the turning point where you thought, you know what, I really need to pursue this, and I need to do a deeper dive and study about stress and burnout, and there are things that others don't know that I need to teach on this, and just share this information? Where was that turning point for you?
It was during that last round of burnout that I experienced in 2021. And specifically, that was when I was actually working with a therapist. And at the same time, I was also following who I call my spiritual guru. And at the time, she was doing a lot of Facebook Lives. And one of the lives that she was doing was, it was called like, how do you know what your life purpose is? And so through the work with the therapist, I became very clear, okay, HR is absolutely not for me. If I want a different life, if I want a different existence, I need to get out of that world. And that Facebook Live drew my attention to what it is that I can be doing to experience a different kind of life. And one of the questions that my spiritual guru like said on that Facebook Live is what do you always do for free? Because she said her argument was what we do for free is generally things that we love doing. And so I took the time and I listed everything out that I did for free. And I brought that list to my therapist, and she's like, do you mind reading it out? And I read it out, and she was like, wow. She didn't even flinch. And she said, have you ever considered becoming a life coach? Because she said, literally everything that you just listed out is screaming to me life coach. And from that moment on, I looked into it, I researched it, and the more I learned about it, and the more that I started to do it, it was like, yeah, this is it. And I had also a recent aha moment with one of my clients, and my client asked me a question, and I was like, "Ooh, no one really asked me that before." And that my aha moment was when I was working my years in HR, my soul was being drained, and that is a very different thing from having your energy drained. Having your energy drained is a very normal thing as a part of life, as a part of living. But experiencing that, like draining that soul, it is so much harder to figure out how to fuel that soul to kind of keep going, to keep it sustainable, to keep that burnout away. Whereas what I'm doing now, coaching, absolutely. By the end of the day, working with clients, I'm tapped. My energy is tapped. That is a very normal thing, but I also know what to do to kind of refuel that bucket of energy, and that is a very easy, like a much easier thing to kind of manage and flow and keep sustainable.
Why do you think we miss the mark on managing stress?
Great question, and a couple of answers are coming to me right now. One is we were generally never taught this stuff. I think back to my childhood. I think back to my education. I had a health education class. There was not one iota of information about how to manage the stress, or even master it is what I like. Because when I say master, to me that's a way of being. I actually don't like the word stress management because that implies to me you're just trying to cope. You're just trying to like get through it. Whereas stress mastery is like you're literally like you're embodying it, so that you are on that roller coaster and avoiding that burnout, and it's just a part of you. So that's the distinction I wanted to make there. But yeah, we were just like never taught this stuff. So that's number one. And number two, whenever this question does come up, I always say, think about, and I know none of us were alive, I don't think, during the cave people days. And if you were, amazing, I want to meet you. But for those who can imagine themselves in the cave people days, their existence was so different from our existence. And I'm not suggesting that they did not experience stress. Of course they did. We all have nervous systems, and that's a part of us. It's innate. But their existence was very much confined into groups of people. And they might not have been exposed to even a group 10 miles away or 20 miles away. And if you think about that, that is a very limited area of exposure for information coming in. And if you fast forward to our existence today, and you think about the technologies that we have, which I'm not talking down about, I mean, it's allowing us to do this today, for sure. But so much access to information, and it's bombarding our brains, and our brains really have not yet caught up to the evolution of all of those advancing technologies. And most of that information that we are intaking is negative. And that is going to be triggering that and activating that amygdala, because what that amygdala is doing is just scanning for threats constantly. And those threats could be either perceived or real. But yeah, those are the two main reasons that I believe is creating this society, especially in our culture, of this burnout. It's so common. It's just been so common.
We've got a lot more to dive into, but first we're going to take a commercial break. Stay right there. We're coming back.
So in the calm bag, it has GABA, theanine, and taurine. So theanine, which is B1, which is also in our B complex, but it also helps with the stress response levels. It also helps with the neurological transmitters in our brain. Combined with the GABA, and then you add taurine to it. Taurine is a non-essential amino acid in our body, but it's found in our heart, our brain, and our eyes. So in my personal opinion, it's very essential in our lives. But taurine has a calming effect as well. When I was battling all my AFib issues, I was taking high doses of taurine because that would help with my AFib. It would help with the palpitations I was having. And it also helped with the anxiety of having the palpitations because I knew what was going on. And so taurine helps a lot with that as well. So those three together create such a wonderful concoction that just really just calms people down.
Introducing Launchpad, the perfect partner to help you launch your dream project to the world. We know that time is of the essence, and we're here to help you make the most of it. With Launchpad, you'll get access to the most advanced digital tools and strategies to take your idea from a mere concept to a fully fledged success. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a seasoned pro, we have everything you need to make your mark in the world. Launchpad, your ultimate launch partner.
Welcome back, everybody. Today we're talking about mastering stress and burnout. Our guest today, Andrew O'Brien, he's a stress and burnout coach. Before the break, we were talking about some of the different points along the way that are important to keep in mind, and we're going to dive deeper into that with identifying stress and burnout. And Andrew, what came to me before the break was I'm curious, what are some areas of stress and what are some things that we don't talk about when it comes to stress and burnout that maybe most people are not aware of? The cost of stress and burnout that most people aren't aware of.
The cost. I mean, I literally keep going back to our health. The biggest cost, as far as I'm concerned, is when we are not controlling this stress. If the stress is controlling us, it literally is going to be taking years off of our life. And that's why I'm so invested and so committed to this space, because I know it's possible scientifically to reverse that trend. That to me is the biggest cost. Of course, when we think about burnout, historically, traditionally, it's really been meant to think about like in the workplace, which absolutely it exists in the workplace, but burnout can be experienced outside of the workplace. So no matter where you are, if you're in the workplace, if you're feeling burnt out, obviously that's going to impact the bottom line. You're not going to be as motivated. You're not going to be as productive. You're going to be calling out more. Those are just some of the things that are quite common when someone's experiencing burnout. But at the home level, even relationships can be impacted in a negative way. And there's just so much cost. There's so much cost involved when we are not getting the grip of the stress that's inside of us, those nervous systems that's inside of us.
What are some of the obvious symptoms of stress and burnout that would be important to be aware of, to keep in mind as things are maybe turning in the wrong direction for us?
Yeah, I would keep in tune with, like, are you experiencing more headaches? Are you experiencing any sort of GI issues, any sort of stomach pain? Are you, like, one of the symptoms that I experience so often, it's not painful, but it's super annoying. And in that last round of burnout that I experienced, I don't know if anyone's had an eyelid twitch, but I had an eyelid twitch. This was not the only time I've had it, but this particular eyelid twitch, incessant for literally a year straight. So that's another kind of symptom. If you have bouts of hemorrhoids, I know I mentioned that a bit ago, but that's common. Even some cancers have been linked to unmanaged stress. And so those are, and I'm going to say it again, there are invisible metrics, those biometrics that we have, and I keep going back to that LDL cholesterol level. Check that out. What I did actually when I started to do this, I actually went back in time and I plotted all of my LDL levels I think I went back a few years, and I noticed that over those few years, that LDL line was trending upwards. And I didn't know it at the time because it was all invisible to me. But once I made it visible, and once I was aware that this could be connected to unmanaged stress, that was another data point for me. So our bodies, they're so informative. we just need to kind of tune in. And also emotionally, if you're feeling as though you are not yourself, your personality type, there's actually a lot of science behind personality type, specifically the Myers-Briggs personality type, as it relates to stress. And so if you don't know what that type is, know what that type is. We have different cognitive processes. Like literally, like half of our personality is innate. We come into this world with a certain way of brain wiring, and if we're not nourishing these cognitive processes, or if we're not finding balance in all of them, that could be a source of stress. But think about how you generally show up when you're coasting, when you're feeling great, and maybe you don't know that you're feeling down, but maybe you are different. Maybe you're lashing out at people uncharacteristically. Maybe you are wanting to kind of like be by yourself when you're generally like more outgoing, or maybe you are the kind of person who likes to be by themselves but are just like spending a lot more time with people. Like if you're doing different things behaviorally, that is a sign. And speaking of behavior, also tune into what those behaviors are, because when we are not mastering this stress, when we're not optimizing that brain health and all of the science, what we tend to do is go to the quick fixes that feel good, which aren't so sustainable for us long term when it comes to our health. And so the things that I'm talking about here are, maybe it's you go to that cigarette, or you go to that drink, or you go to that drug of choice. Maybe you go gambling. Maybe you do more shopping. Maybe that makes you kind of like feel good in the moment. There's so many different things that maybe you overeat, maybe you undereat. There's so many different things that we do to cope in the moment because it feels good. And so no judgments. I've done it too, and I'm sure I still do it to some degree. But it's those are all the things that I would recommend to kind of tune into, to signal to ourselves, okay, maybe I should be doing something about this.
Is there a point where is there a limit to how much stress we should be handling? Like, is there a healthy timeline or limit to stress before it becomes unhealthy?
So there's a few studies out there. There's not like a hard and fast rule at this point, but there are a few studies out there that show that burnout, more the mild and the moderate kind of symptoms, they kind of emerge around 3 to 6 months if we're not kind of like getting those nervous systems under control. Whereas the more severe burnout symptoms, they can emerge after about a year. So that gives a general time frame, but we're all human. We all have nervous systems, absolutely, but we are all we don't all experience the same symptoms. We don't all have the same triggers, and so we have to really like tune in to how we get in touch with our own nervous systems as a way to manage that. But that gives a general time frame as to when burnout can become a thing. Yeah.
And I'm curious, can you have burnout and passion at the same time for a particular subject or field or area of study? Can both of those coexist?
I think they can. I think they can both coexist. But do we want them to coexist? I think that is the question. And I think that answer is no, we don't want them to coexist, because with the burnout, that's when it becomes harmful for us from a health perspective. And so if we're passionate about doing something while not managing our physical, emotional health, I don't know how great of a combination that is. So while I think they can exist at the same time, I don't know if we want them to be existing at the same time.
So what would you tell the executive or the person climbing up their industry ladder, where they're making a name for themselves and they know that how they show up is exactly going to determine the course of their career, but they're feeling overwhelmed and it looks like, by all indicators, the burnout is likely to hit? What would you say to that person who is on that freight train of a scenario?
Yeah. I would say tap into the science and see what might be possible for you to begin optimizing as a way to optimize that brain health. And I keep going back to that brain health because this brain is controlling our nervous system. And so whether that is doing more conscious breathing throughout the day, whether that is doing more physical activity throughout the day, or optimizing that nutrition, or getting that quality, regular, consistent sleep, taking rest breaks, whether it is connecting to yourself, knowing what your values are, knowing what's important to you, and seeing if the actions and decisions that you're making in the day are in alignment with that for the most part. Because if they're totally out of alignment, that's not sustainable. Burnout will happen. There's so many different things. Gratitude, feeling like literally practicing a gratitude, that has a direct impact to different brain parts in the brain and changing these different sizes of the brain parts in a way that's going to help us master this stress. Managing the emotions, that is a big area. And when I say managing these emotions, it's like so many of us were conditioned and raised and taught the actual unhealthy thing, which is to hold everything inside, to bottle things up. And so while that leader might not outburst to their leaders and their managers and bosses and the executives, then there's other ways to do it. There's other ways to release what you're feeling. There's other ways to release what you're experiencing from that perspective. And that's the idea, is to kind of create an emotional highway without traffic, and you're releasing these emotions in a healthy way. So, yeah.
What are some of your non-negotiables going forward to handle your personal stress mastery and burnout, to prevent burnout from happening? What are some of your non-negotiables?
One of my non-negotiables, and the exception is when I'm traveling. I'm a huge traveler, but when I'm in my routine, doing my thing, a non-negotiable is that as an introvert, I do really cherish my alone time. I need that time to recharge. And during that time, one of the things that I do is do a pretty lengthy meditation. It's a guided thing by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And it's a way for us to kind of like rewire and reshape and visualize and just literally become different people. And I'm obsessed with that meditation. It's literally 75 minutes long. And I do that every morning religiously when I'm in my routine. That's one of the non-negotiables. And then of course it's I call it the O'Brien 10. It's the 10 buckets of science, the relevant stress science. And I check in with them every day. And am I perfect with any of it? There's no such thing as perfect. I've learned this. So it's all about optimizing. It's optimizing these 10 areas. And one of the areas that I still continue to work on is the breathing. I lose sight of that in my day. And I want to kind of get more in tune with that breathing throughout the day as a way to further support me in my journey in this way. But yeah, I would say that morning meditation is one of the non-negotiables, in addition to optimizing all of the other 10 buckets of stress science. I would say it's also reminding myself, and this could actually be liberating for someone to hear or challenging for someone to grasp. And yes, easier said than done. But it's actually, generally speaking, it's not the situation that is creating our stress. It is our reaction to that situation that is creating the stress. And just as a quick example to help illustrate this is, think about flying. Think about getting on a plane. You could be deathly afraid of getting on a plane, and you could just think it's like, this is freedom. I love getting on a plane, and everything in between. The plane hasn't changed. That situation hasn't changed. What has changed is our reaction to it. And if you don't want that fear anymore, if you don't want that stress about flying anymore, you can actually do something about that. Can be easier said than done, of course, but I remind myself of that every day. And that's what I would say on that end, Adriana.
So you did mention a little while ago that you're a traveler, and I know that in past conversations you've shared with me that before today that you shared that you've discovered areas of the world that have grown to become near and dear to your heart, and that has grown from you exploring helping others with stress and burnout. Can you talk a little bit about that?
100%. Yeah. And so this place that you're speaking of that is near and dear to my heart is the Congo. And I went there last year on a little visit. And my intent going there was literally to interact with the gorillas and have a gorilla experience, a gorilla trekking experience. But what also happened, my tour guide at the time, he asked me if I wanted to visit a refugee camp. And something in my heart told me to say yes. It was the first time I've ever experienced something like that. And so we visited that camp. And that's when my life changed from this perspective. One of the things that I did in my business actually in response to that was to open up a branch of pro bono work. And so now I offer pro bono coaching for refugees and folks impacted by war. And yeah, so it's been an incredible experience. I have been working with a client from the Congo, and I was the most nervous. I'm gonna be real. I was the most nervous going into that coaching engagement because I've experienced challenge. You've experienced challenge. The listeners, the viewers have experienced challenge for sure. And maybe some of these viewers and listeners have experienced living in a war zone, but I haven't. And knowing that this person is still living in a war zone, I was nervous going into that coaching engagement. But I'm so glad that he trusted me to be his coach, because this journey has been just so rewarding in so many different ways, on both ends. I mean, we always say with coaching is that, like, we're learning too. Coaches are learning.
You
Yeah.
bring up a really good point, because I think for so many of us, I'm going to throw myself in the loop, that the most obvious association with stress and burnout is just the corporate world. But you're highlighting that not necessarily. There could be moments in life that are life altering, such as being in a war zone and such, that can create that, not just someone who's receiving that, but then also even the military, that in all that they do. And so can you talk a little bit about how that's not such an easy connection, stress and burnout? Ah, yes, those who are going through moments like this that maybe many of us have not experienced before.
Yeah, it's truly like, I always say, humans have nervous systems, and with nervous systems, we are all susceptible to burnout if we're not proactively mastering that stress. And so, yeah, if there's a lot of focus in the workplace about burnout and less in other situations, military, people living in a war zone, as an example, like, my heart goes out to those populations, because maybe they're maybe not as in tune with, oh my God, I am burned out, I am experiencing these physical pain symptoms, and I can actually do something about that. I can reverse that trend. And so that's a difference that I do see.
Wow, we've got a lot more to cover. First, we're going to take a break. Stay right there.
Welcome to Renew Laser and Skincare, where beauty meets technology. From laser hair removal and anti-aging treatments to facial sculpting, acne care, and injectables, our expert team helps you look and feel your best with customized, results-driven care. Located in Littleton, Colorado, we offer a comfortable, welcoming space and cutting-edge treatments tailored just for you. Visit renewlaserandskincare.com to book your transformation today. Renew Laser and Skincare, where confidence begins.
Hi, I'm Adriana, and welcome to Fit Bites. Today, let's talk about collagen, a protein that plays a vital role in keeping your skin, joints, and connective tissues strong and healthy. Now, collagen is often called the glue that holds your body together. It helps maintain skin elasticity, promotes joint mobility, and supports healthy hair and nails. But as we age, our body's natural collagen production decreases, typically starting in our mid-20s, which can lead to wrinkles, joint discomfort, and weaker connective tissues. Now, the good news is you can support your collagen levels. Foods rich in protein, for example, like chicken, fish, and eggs, they provide the building blocks for collagen production. Vitamin C is also essential. Citrus fruits, bell peppers, and leafy greens, for example, can boost your body's ability to produce collagen. Supplementing with collagen peptides has also become popular and may help improve skin hydration, joint health, and overall resilience. Just make sure to choose a high-quality product. Remember, collagen is more than just a beauty trend. It's key to staying strong and feeling great as you age. Stay proactive and take care of your body from the inside and out. Stay tuned for more Fit Bites with Adriana. Welcome back, everybody. We're spending quality time with our guest today, Andrew O'Brien. He is a stress and burnout coach, and we did a deep dive with all the different symptoms, some of the different areas in which we may not immediately recognize stress and burnout in our lives. And Andrew, one thing that comes up for me that I wanted to ask you is, you work with businesses and individuals together, you work with those type of groups. What is the one thing that you wish organizations would implement immediately to help support their teammates and their employees?
Number one, to provide information, about like stress is a real thing, burnout is a real thing, the education, the information, absolutely important, but also like having leaders set the example, having leaders take advantage of resources, whether they are external to the organization or internal to the organization. I know organizations have robust support resources that include support for therapy, support for coaching, all sorts of different elements of our physical, financial, all types of well-being. But even if your organization is not at that level, maybe can't afford those resources, maybe there are some external resources that you can tap into and provide those to your employees, or even share them as possible resources for them, even if you're not directly paying for it. I think the more we socialize this, the less of a stigma there will be behind it. And that's one of the biggest things that I wish for.
So it does start from the leaders. It starts with their willingness to explore these areas, would you say?
I think that it adds a lot. If employees see their leaders and managers taking that, think about the whole like PTO or vacation time. If that leader is constantly working, even on vacation, that's saying to their employee, like maybe that employee has to do the same thing. And so if that leader is truly like tuning out, turning off that phone, the employee is going to feel like they can do the same thing. And so from that perspective, absolutely, I think that's only going to help. That said, mastering our own stress is our individual responsibility as well. So it's kind of like a twofold. I think it starts with us as individuals, because we know what's going to work for us. And if you don't know, you can partner with someone to kind of help support you in figuring that out. And supported, complemented by what they're seeing with leaders in the organization.
So you've been working with businesses and individuals for a period of time, and I want to bring up your information here about your business, just because we're in the spirit of sharing is caring with our viewers. Talk a little bit about how you work with others, and if any of our viewers are interested in finding out more information about you, what would it be like to contact you, and what are some things that you cover?
Yeah, so on the individual basis, it's coaching. So I offer coaching packages where we support. I call it like getting clear on that North Star. And I always say, if we are burned out, we're not going to know what that North Star is. So that's why I'm always focused on supporting folks relieving and resolving that burnout before kind of opening up the dialogue around that North Star, because once we don't have that heavy blanket of stress over us, that's when things become more visible, more clear. Oh my God, this is actually what I really want. And then we kind of get into that motion and that part of the journey. So coaching packages, I offer workshops as well for individuals if they want to just kind of go through those 10 areas of relevant stress science and build out an action plan for themselves. Absolutely, they can do that. And I also offer as a workshop the personality type debrief, and we get super specific as to like how their personality type can be connected to their stress. On an organizational level, I partner with those folks, and I generally offer some interactive, I call them events, not really, I don't like the word presentation, but events that provide all the information, the neuroscience, the science around the nervous system, the 10 buckets of stress science, as I call them. And then walking away with either some reflective questions or a workshop that we then go into a wheel of stress that I've created around those 10 buckets. So again, as a way for folks to kind of really create a specific action plan to support themselves.
And then the other thing that we want to share with everyone is obviously what you're doing for the people of Congo. And I want to share with everyone that you have a spot fund, and talk a little bit about what your mission is and what you're trying to do as you just give your heart and your efforts to Congo.
Yeah. And I first want to just say, Adriana, thank you. Thank you for doing this and for sharing the spotlight, because the Congo really doesn't get that airtime. And so I feel emotional now because it touches my heart that you're allowing that to happen. So thank you so much for that, first of all. And yeah, so this fundraiser that I actually started this last year, and we've been able to raise a lot of funds. We actually just broke the $5,000 mark. The next goal we're trying to get to is $7,500. And all of this stuff has really been helping the people over there who have nothing. They have nothing. So this is helping them get like shoes. I don't know if you know, but like in eastern parts of the Congo, there's also volcanic activity. So they don't really have paved streets. They're walking on lava rocks. And so those shoes are super important. So we're getting shoes for them, food for them. So many different types of like education events, things like that. The most recent focus has been to support orphans. And this year, the war really like escalated by the rebels doing their thing, which has been a nightmare and horrific. And so these kids, they lost their parents to the rebels. And so these orphans really don't have anything or any parents or any guidance. And so they're connected to a couple of different orphanages. And so the latest round of funds is really going to support them and their food needs. We just literally brought a supply of food for 2 weeks that'll last them for 2 weeks. And just to see the joy on their faces, tears to my eyes, unbelievable. So that's some of the stuff that we've been doing in the Congo to help the people in desperate need.
So to hit your goal, is there as of today, is there an amount that you are needing to hit that you have yet to hit as of this point? Is there a gap between your goal?
There is a gap, and right now, like we're trying to get to 7,500. And,
okay.
And if you go to the Spot Fund page, you'll actually see that we put in a budget of like the breakdown of what kind of money will do what. And we've always been very transparent about that. And this is like, I want to make it, this is direct giving. Like we're not working through any sort of organization. This is literally directly going to the people there, because that tour guide that I mentioned to you last year, he and I have been staying in touch. And he is the one that's been making all of this money come to life in beautiful ways. And I just want to take advantage of him. And like his heart is so beautiful. And yeah, so this is direct giving as well. But yeah, 7,500 is the next goal that we're looking to hit with this fundraiser.
And obviously, you're a shining example of one person making a difference. And we wanted our viewers to be aware of this. And so, for those viewers who are watching, that if you feel led to give and you're just that type of person that you just want to know where there is a need, and definitely click the QR code so that you can find out more information and to give as you prefer to. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We are coming back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody. Today, we've been talking about mastering stress and burnout. Our guest, Andrew O'Brien, stress and burnout coach. And it's been amazing to do a deeper dive with all of these important elements that we need to keep in mind. Andrew, where can we find you in the virtual space?
In the virtual space, you can find me on my website that we touched on a bit ago. Of course, you can find me there. If you want, like, the buckets, the O'Brien 10. One of my clients said that, not me, by the way. The O'Brien 10, if you want that, go to my site and download it, and you can see what all this science is for yourself. But yeah, the website is a place. You can find me on Instagram at The Mind Blowing Coach. You can find me on YouTube. I do quite a bit of shorts there. The long videos, not quite yet there, but the shorts I gravitate towards, and I drop little tidbits of information through those shorts. LinkedIn, you can find me. I know there's like a gazillion Andrew O'Briens, but I think if you type in stress and burnout coach, you'll find who I am there. Yeah, so that's really where someone can find me online digitally.
And what do you have going on for the remainder of 2025 going into 2026?
What do I have going on? It's supporting people and partnering with people to master their stress, for sure. That is something that I'm going to stay committed to, whether it's here in the United States or with folks in the Congo. It is just like a privilege to be able to do this work for folks. So absolutely doing some of that, and then traveling. I mentioned my love of travel, so I'm going to be traveling again in December. I'm getting some scuba diving in there this time around, and 2026. Yeah, it's just looking to kind of keep doing what I'm doing. I actually have a marathon that I'm training for in Cape Town, and I just got accepted into the UN's running team called Step with Refugees, and so that's going to be a really cool experience for me with my passion specifically for refugees and specifically for the Congo. And yeah, so business-wise, keep doing what I'm doing, and personal-wise, that's a couple things that I have on my radar.
Fantastic. I know time flies and I wish we could talk more, but this is the part where I have to say, oh, we're out of time. Andrew, thank you so much for spending time with us today. Of course, as always, it's a big treat for me to just connect with you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being with us.
Adriana, I want to just say a huge thank you for not just today, but for the conversations that we've had before this. You are a beautiful soul. And just thank you for doing this and for allowing me to share some of this information with your audience. Much appreciated.
Oh, my heart. Absolutely, my friend. And for our viewers, we just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. We appreciate their support. Biomed Mobile IV, Dapper No Code, Launchpad, Renews Laser and Skincare, and Synergize Fitness. And of course, we are also on the web. Our website is thehealthrevolutiontv.com. You can find out, you can download, you can send us an email for any show episode ideas you'd love for us to have, or join our newsletter. You can grab the QR code on the corner of your screen, and you can count on us to be there for you every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, on the Ariane TV channel, on E360 TV, and all the main distribution hubs that you can find our show. That is all the time that we have for today. Until next time, take care of yourselves. We will see you soon.